Hi, everybody, and welcome to the class. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So we're going to start here pretty soon. I just wanted to let everyone know that this event is kind of done talking about using essential oils and with doTERRA, and it qualifies for what they call a New Year, New You promotion. And anyone who enrolls with a 100 PV order can get an access code, and they will be able to receive 100 points with their next qualifying order on the Loyalty Rewards program. And Ryan Garner is going to be teaching the class. I asked him to teach it. He is part of my upline, and he has a lot of formal education in wellness, and he's also an athlete and just kind of embodies the active lifestyle. I think more than most people that I meet. He's done some cross-country coaching, and he does a lot of Spartan races. I'm pretty sure he's a Spartan race coach. Aren't you, Ryan?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I'll let him get started, and after their talk, we're also going to have some time for questions. And so write them down if you get any as we go along, so we'll be able to answer them. And I'm also going to keep the Facebook page open. If you, in a couple of days, have any questions, you can just post them and we'll get back to you. And you can start whenever you're ready, Ryan.
All right, sounds good. Okay, yeah, so Stephanie was saying that we were going to do it on active lifestyle, which was pretty exciting for me because I like listening to people, hearing what their concerns are, what their needs are, and kind of meeting them where they're at. But this one for me is really, in a lot of ways, it's very integral to who I am. So basically, I've been running for, I don't know, almost 20-something years. I've got crazy fast times if you ever want to ask me about it sometime. But I've also started obstacle course racing. Well, really, I started parkour before that. And so if you're interested in running and interested in obstacle course racing, this class should be a good supplement to whatever you're working on. So, all right, so the human animal. We're going to start there. This is sort of an introduction to me because my goal for a long time has been to try to be just the best human that I can. I see humans as animals, not separate, and I see that we're not as instinctual as the other animals, and so we have a need to really examine what it is to be human and to be the best we can. One of the cool things about the human animal is how amazingly resilient it is. It can get away with doing a lot of things that are harmful to the body. And so I point out there the scavenger liver. So scavenger, different kinds of animals have different kinds of livers, and the scavenger group, they have a particularly resilient liver that allows them to eat all kinds of garbage. Well, humans are just lucky enough to have one of those types of livers. In fact, I personally think that's a divine thing. I look at the human condition and I think as animals, we're the least instinctual. We don't think about, we overthink about things instead of just trusting our instincts. And so I think the animals tend to be led by God more, whereas we tend to rely on our mind. And that causes us to, think, hey, this Crisco, an animal would never touch a batch of Crisco, but we might look at it and go, that might Crisco with bread. Luckily, we've got a liver that filters a lot of that stuff out, and so to a certain point, as long as we're supporting that liver in its process of detoxifying, we can get away with quite a bit until we reach a point where our body finally says enough's enough, and we start to break down. So that liver aspect is an important part of understanding really the human condition, because the liver, what it does is it essentially it runs a balance of how many toxic foods we have versus how many nutrients we have, vitamins and minerals. Okay, and so we have a fundamental need to take in vitamins in order to detoxify, to get rid of things. So a lot of times people talk about going on a detox diet. Okay, well, ideally, a detox is actually originally, it was a nutrition term, not really a layman term at all, and it was a term that meant there was actually an observation of what the body already did. So you don't go on a special diet to detox. Your body just has the nutrients it needs, and so if it has the nutrients, it detoxes automatic. It's just something that happens. So, but as if it doesn't, what it does is really interesting. It actually will surround the toxin with fat, and it'll store it out in the tissues, and that's where you get your cellulite. You ever see somebody who's really skinny, they work out all the time, but they eat like garbage? Their body's saying, I don't have the vitamins to take care of this, and so it surrounds it with cellulite or with fat, goes out in the tissues to take care of this. And cholesterol plays a factor in there as a benign factor, meaning it's not to blame. But I'm not going to go into that with this conversation. But what I want you to note is that you have an essential need for vitamins as building blocks of being this self-healing organism. Okay, we weren't created by a mechanic, so we're not easily fixed. We can't just be micromanaged and somebody can just figure out our specific biochemical needs and just micromanage each individual person. But we do self-heal provided we have the blocks. In addition to your vitamin needs, you have what I'm going to call paravitamin help, for lack of a better term. Basically, your let's see here. Excuse me. All right, we'll talk about the paravitamin help in just a second. Let's finish talking about the vitamins here. So, with vitamins, whenever I talk to people about vitamins, I get a common question, which is a question that I actually struggled with and worked on for a really long time and put a lot of research into. The question is, can you get all your nutrients from food with a carefully crafted diet? Is there a reason I have to even take vitamins? And the answer is yes. And the reason I know the answer is yes is because I've done the math, literally. So if you take recommended daily allowances and you compare them to the not the food that we've had in the past, but the food we have today. We actually have an organization, the USDA, that actually measures what kind of nutrients are in our food today. So if we actually take that and kind of compare them against each other with a very carefully crafted diet, you can actually pull it off. So then that brings me to my next question: what role do vitamins play? And the answer is that they offer the boost. If you look at if you've ever taken like a chemistry class, you probably had to deal with those ridiculous, looks like Greek to me equations. And you've got, something on both sides of the equation, and the teacher's always trying to get you to balance it perfectly so you have this exact number on both sides of the equation. And if we were trying to biochemically specifically work with the human body that way, I think we would really struggle. But vitamins allow us to basically override one whole side of that equation, making sure that we always have the what we want on the other side of the equation. In other words, if I have more than enough beta-carotene, for example, and I use beta-carotene because it's one of the few vitamins that has a known side effect where you have too much of it. But for the most part, vitamins, they don't have side effects, right? But if I use too much beta-carotene, the worst thing that can happen to me is I start to turn it looks like I fake bake. I get a little bit of an orange tan, which is really not that bad of a side effect, especially when you consider that those people seem to also have a heightened immune system and do even better once they have turned orange. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But obviously you don't want to take too much of it. Well, my point is, if you have a boost like that of your multivitamins, for the most part, you're dealing with a very safe interaction. There's almost no side effects. Vitamins are so essential because if you think about it, they pretty much shield just about everything that most things that we deal with. For example, night blindness is a vitamin A deficiency. So if you have vitamin A, then it gets better, right? If you consider that most diseases have some sort of relation to toxicity of the liver, and the vitamins are helping to detoxify that liver, then they're all playing a role there as well. So you go example after example, but it's just an integral part of it. So the question then becomes, they play this role of essentially pushing you over the top, giving you this boost to your system that makes you even healthier than you would be. So people who need a boost would be people like me, people who exercise a ton. They enjoy exercise. They very extreme, and so they simply need the extra vitamins because their body's going to use up a lot when they're exercising. Another group of people would be people who are in some kind of sickness, right? If you're dealing with some kind of sickness, usually you need the extra boost, so it would make sense for anybody dealing with any kind of sickness, sleep deprivation, adrenal fatigue, really anything. And then if you then consider, okay, well, if they don't fit into one of the other two groups, you probably will at some point, right? Because if you're not sick and you're not exercising, you're in limbo between the two. You're either going to start exercising or you're going to start being sick because you didn't exercise. So vitamins are really super important. You can't exercise your way to health without them, and you can't really do vitamins and not exercise. So it plays an important part of just that whole wellness paradigm of taking care of your body. So quick answer: yes, you can get all your food, but why not have the boost? Obviously it's going to hurt. So there are different kinds of vitamins that work and vitamins that don't work. And I would say, really not all vitamins are created equal. I've done quite a bit of wellness coaching over the years with different people. One of the most frustrating things for me is when I know what's wrong with someone, I know what vitamin is missing because of what's wrong or because of what's missing in their lifestyle. And I say to them, go get da-da-da-da-da, that'll help. And they go do it, and they don't get the results right away. And I think, that doesn't even make sense. How could you be doing that and not getting the results? A plus B equals C. It's supposed to happen every time. And what I found is that sometimes they're just not getting it from a good source. And sometimes that was a bad food source, and sometimes it's a bad vitamin source. And so I've actually found that most vitamins tend to have these fillers that are kind of watered down, essentially cardboard, in the vitamin. So what I've listed here is, you have a good set of vitamins if you're getting one of these types of things: energy, more rapid recovery, better sleep. I talked about the unanticipated healing, like with vitamin A. This is, again, to go back to that. So if somebody has night blindness, they don't necessarily think that vitamins are going to fix it, but lo and behold, they took any multivitamin and it got better. Wow, that's because it doesn't take very much vitamin A to fix that one. But if they're dealing with something that obviously the ideal would be to have one without fillers. So usually when someone starts taking a good vitamin, they get any of a number of increases in their health and their function, right? So my go-to vitamins, the ones that I've personally seen the most people be able to come back and report, like we talked about on the previous slide, all these different things: more energy, more rapid recovery, better sleep. I get more of those kinds of comments from these vitamins than any that I've worked with in the past. Most big vitamin companies have something that makes them uniquely excellent, and so that'll be their marketing point. They'll say, ours are great because of da-da-da-da-da. Of course, in doTERRA's case, it's because they're able to add in essential oils. So they have essentially a concentration of plants in there that you wouldn't necessarily be, you wouldn't be able to get with just, cold pressed dehydrating the food. So I don't happen to think that there's only one great multivitamin, but I think that there are very few that don't have fillers. And the ones that do have that don't have fillers, they do tend to cost more. But that's the thing: is it really costing more if you're spending a lot of money on a vitamin that doesn't work because it's really not giving you what you thought it was going to give you? So these three are the big ones for doTERRA. The one on the far left, Microplex, that's essentially your multivitamin. That's what most people talk about when they say multivitamin. That's all in there. The one next to it, the omegas, this is, if you have ever had any sort of omegas is an interesting conversation because in the States we worry about making sure we have enough omega-3s, right? So omega-3s makes your blood thinner. We worry about it in the States because we eat a lot of processed foods and therefore our blood is thicker. Vice versa, your blood can be too thin, such as the Japanese. And so they need more omega-6s and omega-9s. And so what you really need is actually a balance of the two, and that's what the E-omega gives. It gives a good balance. So I was very pleased when I discovered that it wasn't just an omega-3. Because, if I'm working with people who are eating healthy, then it doesn't make sense for them to eat a bunch of omega-3s because they're not having the excess of omega-6s that everyone who's eating processed foods is getting. just because it plays a part in preservatives. And then the other one there is the alpha CRS. That one is, it's basically, like it says, it's a cellular vitality complex. You've got a lot of antioxidants in there. You've got a lot of things that help with cellular respiration. So it's about the cells essentially being in a parasympathetic state, being healthy, and so it just sort of treats the cell and helps the cell heal in general. We're going to actually talk about another pill that helps the cell heal even more. So if you'll think about this one as the antioxidant and the next one as really the cellular repair, but that'll come a little bit later. So let's talk paravitamin help for a little bit. So I kind of coined this phrase because I needed something to talk about, kind of a way to talk about this, because vitamins are things that your body needs. In other words, it doesn't produce it. You have to get it, and it's ideal to get it from real food, and then the supplement on top of that so you have the boost. But these foods, these paravitamin help, these are the things that you do produce. You actually produce these on your own, and the plants also have them. So most of your herbal remedies are based on these types of things, and in fact, most of your medicines are too. And because of that, there's tons of research on all of these guys, extensive research on what they all do and the role they play in healing different parts of the body. And what the goal for medicine will be to essentially replicate it. So if you look to the right of this slide, it says L versus R. This is talking about something called chirality, and basically what it means is that an L shape is a natural state. So if you have a monoterpene, for example, in existing in nature, it should have a certain orientation of that chemical. So if we drew it out on paper, it would look like a hexagon with some double bonds, and it might have an oxygen hanging off one side. Well, that would be the natural left-handed side of that monoterpene. Say if it was hanging off the left side, for example. And then the mirror image of that would be if it had the oxygen hanging off on the right side. Now this is just an example, but that would be how chirality works. Now, the reason that's important, and I want you to understand, is because when we synthetically make these elements here, all this list here that you see, when we synthetically make these in the lab, it's weird, but for some reason they always want to take a right-handed reflective view of the original molecule. In other words, we can't seem to reproduce these natural things synthetically. We just can't. Occasionally there are some that don't have a left, that they're a mirror of themselves, like race car. They just are. So it's just not as big of a problem. But even in those cases, when you synthetically make that one, it's like taking turpentine. It has, just because it has it doesn't mean you want to eat turpentine. So even in this case, I would still prefer the natural, just because I don't trust that we fully understand the synthetic version yet. But this is just one observation of one of the big problems that we see when we synthetically make it. So the best part about being able to use it on left-handed is that with the normal medicinal practice, what would happen is you would take the pill, and it would gradually it would kind of help out a little, and then you would need to take it again for like the rest of your life, kind of a thing, and then it would create other problems in your body, and then as your body tried to compensate, and you would have new pills and whatnot. With the left-handed model, what we actually see is the opposite. The body gets healthier, and because these are things, remember, your body produces these, right? So if you start supplementing with them, then your body says, wait, I know how to produce that, and it starts producing more. So you don't need as much, and you actually take less over time. That said, things like vitamins, you should continue to take, because that's, again, not a paravitamin, but an actual essential nutrient you need from your diet all the time, right? So being interested in wellness for a long time, we're gonna jump that direction a little bit, just briefly touch on what wellness is and how it relates to this paravitamin help that we're talking about. So again, you're trying to be the best human being you can be. I have a long way to go, but I think that the general concept of wellness is that you're making lifestyle change, and it's constant progress. So you're not depending or on something else to come fix you. It's that I want permanent change in my life. I have to make a permanent change in my lifestyle. So that's wellness versus medicine, which is sort of that micromanaging element. God complex. We think we can understand the body completely, and so we can probably fix this. With the oils, we talked about them being very similar in composition to the medicine, right? So you'd think, is this like a natural medicine? A lot of people use that term. I don't personally like it, and here's kind of why. With wellness, you wouldn't really diagnose a disease ever. You would diagnose a lifestyle problem, right? You would say, okay, well, so you're deficient in sleep, so get more sleep, right? In the case of oils and whatnot, you have an opportunity to say, instead of saying, oh, you fit into this box of all these people who have diabetes, for example, instead of saying that, you can say, well, you fit into a box of people who are having a blood sugar problem. Here's an oil that just works with blood sugar in general. And what's nice about that is then you can say, well, I don't know actually what's the best thing for you. All I know is that this oil helps balance blood sugar. So whether you have an insulin problem or a glycogen problem or whatever it is, instead of micromanaging that, we're just saying, you know what, this helps support the system in general. Again, going back to the chemistry equation example, we're just loading everything up on the one side of the equation so that we get the output on the other side of the equation, we can get healthy, right? So a quick example of this, I worked with a girl who had a digestive disorder. She was going to the Mayo Clinic. They had no clue what it was wrong. They were doing tons and tons of tests. They couldn't figure it out. She described it to me, and it was nothing like I'd ever learned in school. And I thought, I have no idea what's wrong with you. And this is when I was just starting out with oils, and I said, you know what, though? I do have this oil. It's called Digesten. It's a complex of multiple oils. It just supports that entire digestive system. So I don't need to know what's wrong with you. Why don't you just try this out and see if it works? Give her a little sample bottle. She came back the next day, said, I can only eat if I take this first, so I'm going to need more of that. Again, you're looking at a system-based approach. Am I dealing with the immune system? Am I dealing with the blood system? Am I dealing with the digestive system? As opposed to the individual symptoms and whatnot. So, I was going to go over wellness, discomfort care, and emergency care, but I want to get on to kind of running and OCR a little bit. So we're gonna skip that. Suffice it to say that all types of healthcare fit into one of these three categories. Wellness, obvious, is lifestyle. Emergency care is an obvious need. If somebody's going to die, it doesn't help them to change their lifestyle. It's a little late. Discomfort care, on the other hand, they're uncomfortable. Sometimes our discomfort care doctors, they can be useful in helping to relieve stress from the body with the medicines that they do offer. But if you can handle the discomfort and it's not overly stressful, then obviously that permanent lifestyle change is going to be what gives you that permanent health. Of the three, I personally think that wellness is the most powerful. All right, so let's get into running an obstacle course racing. Now you kind of have that foundation in the human body and its biochemical needs. So I personally think that running is the extreme of all extreme sports, and obviously that's because of the excessive pounding, right? Pounding actually is very helpful. So a lot of people think like, oh, well, don't runners get runner's knee? No, runners who speed up their timetable on how quickly they're improving, those are the ones who get runner's knee. So it's usually the newer runners or somebody who is going from not running very much to running a ton. Because pounding is like, think of it like this. Your muscles, you break them down, they take like 3 days to build back up, right? Your joints and your ligaments, though, guess what? They actually do build back up, but like bone, they take 6 to 8 weeks. So if you're improving, or rather increasing the number of times that you take steps in your runs, and you're going at a more and more intense pace very quickly, then that pounding is going to do nothing but break down those joints, right? Running is technically not from pounding. It's from what's called a repetitive stress injury. So other repetitive stress injuries would be like golfer's elbow, tennis elbow. Pitchers get rotator cuff injuries. People who bench press get rotator cuff injuries. Basically, the problem is they're doing the same activity over and over. And when we run, don't we do the same activity over and over? Ideally, that's why you do cross country. You get off the road, you get a change of the angle of the way your foot hits the ground, and you're bouncing back and forth all over. But ultimately, that pounding plays a role in breaking down the body and letting you build it back up as long as you get the rest, right? So the rest helps even more. And so that becomes a question of monitoring repetition, so you're not overly improving too quickly with your repetitions of how many steps you're taking too frequently. But then as we go into basic workout design, then we recognize the need for this constant rest. Really, if you break it down, you need one hard day for every 2 rest days. Okay, so of the 2 hard days, so I look at it this way: the body doesn't understand distance. Every time I talk to an athlete, and I say, or a runner specifically, so how long did you run? And they'll always, if I say, how long did you run, they'll almost always give me distance, right? I ran 10 miles. Oh, that doesn't tell me anything, and it doesn't tell your body anything either. Your body doesn't know if you ran 10 miles. Your body knows how intense that was for you, and it knows how long it took you. Okay, so let's use the example for me. Let's say that for an hour, I ran. So if I run for 10 miles, let's say it takes me an hour. So that's a 6-minute mile pace for an hour. So then you start to see, okay, so that tells you the time. It was an hour, but you still don't know the intensity. You just know that the pace, right? To know that the intensity, you got to look at it in terms of the percentage of your max speed. So let's say 100% sprint pace, the fastest you can go, and a 6-minute mile pace for me, maybe it's going to be 60-70% of my max sprint pace. So now you know that I ran an hour at 60 to 70% of my max intensity. So you can get an idea of how hard my heart had to work to hold that position, right? So when I plan out a workout, when I plan out a whole week of workouts, I want to have intensity days because, again, the body only understands time, intensity, and repetition. Okay, repetition, I just got to gauge that I don't go too fast, but I want to focus on improving my intensity, improving my time. So time's an easy one to understand. Have a day that you just run for a really, really long time, and then rest from it, because it usually takes you most of the week to rest from such a day. If you're getting up to 55 minutes an hour, that's a rough day on your joints, and so it's very exhausting, but also very beneficial to your circulatory system. Intensity days, you're looking at doing things like sprint repeats, right? So your sprint repeats might look like basically, running 10 400-meter sprints with jogging in between, okay? What this gives us, though, when we're looking at intensity, when you're talking about sprint repeats for intensity, is it gives us a way to gauge. So if I tell you that I did an hour at 60 to 70% of my max intensity, and you tell me that you did an hour at 67% of your max intensity, regardless of our pace, we had the same workout. Our body understood it the same way. And so if you're trying to design a workout for yourself or even for groups, if you keep that in mind, you can actually get the whole group doing the same workout. So kind of some examples of time-based workouts. The main thing I like to talk about here is that everyone is designed to be a runner, okay? It's just part of being human. You're born, you learn to crawl, you learn to walk, you learn to jog, you learn to run. It's just part of being human. And then you learn to sit on the couch and watch TV, and you forget how to run. And then you eventually get to where you can't jog anymore, and then walking gets difficult. So we want to make sure that that's always going in a positive direction. We're improving our ability to do time, right? And the goal time frame is 55 minutes to an hour. So start with walking and getting to where you can do walking for an hour and then jogging and then running. You don't really need to go beyond an hour because then you actually start to get into using a different energy system of the body that's more stress-based. So that's why I'm not usually a huge fan of things like marathons. But anyway, I think it's good to use that energy system every once in a while just to make sure the body gets the exercise of it. So it's not like that I'll never run longer than an hour, but for anybody that's healing, I wouldn't really recommend it. So intensity workouts then are the ones I said that like sprint repeats. These are you guys, you're running up a hill, you're doing some sort of a sprint. The one I listed here is my personal favorite. It's the one I think you get the most benefit from, and it is also the hardest workout I have ever seen. It's 400 meters is one lap around the track. In between, you're not being allowed to rest. You're keeping a jog going, and the main reason for that has to do with your heart. You're trying to keep your heart rate from dropping. If it drops, it can be very damaging to your heart, and it can also, you want your heart to come down a little in between, obviously, because you're trying to rest in between them. But you don't actually want to fully recover. So the way I gauge that personally when I do them is rather than time it, I listen to my heart. And if I'm to a point where I have caught my breath, but my heart's not fully calmed down yet, that's when I know I'm ready to go for another one. And so I'll try to get 10 of those in. I would say don't start with this workout, okay? This is, like I said, my hardest workout that I think exists. I usually do a 2-mile warm-up and a 800-meter cool down from it. So it's not one that I think everyone should start with, but the concept here, you can do 200-meter sprints or 100-meter sprints, or just something, or time it even would be even better. Do 30 seconds of just your 80 to 90% intensity, just that close to your max speed. And essentially kind of mix it up so you don't get bored with it, right? And then you're trying to gradually increase that, just like you will with your time workout, to where you can handle more. Again, you see how I've shown the calendar there. You've got an intensity day, 2 rest days, a time day, 2 rest days, and you're just kind of repeating through that process. That's a basic design. Rest workouts. So you understand, we're still working out on those days. So, for example, the most basic of that would be a 20-minute jog or a 20-minute walk, okay? Just something that is so calm that you could do it and it's not even a super challenge. Now, for some people, 20-minute jogging is a lot. So this could be walking, or this could be jogging in place. But this is an important aspect to healing, because if you don't get this rest workout in, especially the first one. So take a look at Monday. If you have that hard, intense day, and then on Tuesday, within 24 hours, if you don't have that rest workout, you won't pump metabolites out of your system and get your body in a state where it can heal quickly. So it'll actually take you longer to recover from your intense workout because you didn't run within 24 hours. So as a rule, at the bare minimum, I tell people, go for a 20-minute walk, jog, whatever is calm for you, so that you can pump out those metabolites, get your oxygen going again, get your blood flowing. As the blood flows in, it brings nutrients into those areas. They're able to heal better. It takes stuff out away from them that's not supposed to be there. When I say metabolites, I'm talking about things left over from your muscles breaking down. So we want to get that stuff out of there. But there's other things you can do, right? This is when I'll do things like calisthenics, body weight exercises. Calisthenics is a word for that. Yoga, Tai Chi, rock climbing, parkour, flow run. Parkour, if you don't know, if you're interested in obstacle course racing, you really should get interested in parkour. Not free running, mind you. So parkour and free running are not interchangeable. Parkour means you're trying to get over obstacles as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, conserving energy over the flow. So in other words, you're getting to a point where you know how to go over an obstacle quickly and efficiently and not use up a lot of energy. Compare that to free running, which is going to be more just doing sort of gymnastics on concrete, which is very cool as well, but not necessarily going to help you in an obstacle course race. In terms of efficiency, it's not efficient to do a flip, right? It could be efficient to do a roll or to do a spin of some kind, but the flips aren't really very useful, right? So there's something of a division of actual skill sets between the two, the one being more focused on efficiency. And then I wrote, I wrote this probably just to make people angry maybe, but I wrote easy stuff like weightlifting or CrossFit. Because in my mind, in these kinds of workouts, there's a lot of sitting around and waiting and not doing very much. And honestly, I can't get a very good workout. When I do CrossFit, I gotta do 2 hours worth to get a good workout. Just because I'm used to, again, this crazy time workout and intensity workout that I've shown you. So if CrossFit's really intense for you, then that might be your intensity day workout. If you can make sure you keep moving through it, which most gyms, they do a pretty good job of that. So, right, so that's the different types of rest workouts you can do. Just keeping in mind, you want to stay parasympathetic. In other words, during those times, you're trying to use your the part of your nervous system that helps you stay relaxed and helps your body to repair. That is your goal during those workouts. So no matter what you choose, just pick something that is fun, enjoyable, and completely non-stressful. All right, so repair. So I'm going to talk about repair, and I'm actually going to talk about also recovery. So repair is when you're injured. So because of the nature of the things I do these parkour flow runs where I'll go for a long run and jump over obstacles throughout the run. I was doing that before obstacle course racing became a thing. And when I discovered obstacle course racing, I said, yay, they made a race just for me. I was very, very excited. But because of that, I get strain sprains frequently enough. So a strain sprain usually takes 4 or 6 weeks to heal from. And my old system for dealing with those was just time, wait it out. It'll get better. So what was great for me was having the oils come into my life because it gave me an amazing experience. And that was that over a weekend in a matter of 3 days. What usually took me 4 to 6 weeks to heal from got better in 3 days. So what you're looking at here are let's talk about the deep blue first. So this one is like your rubs, like icy hots, right? Everybody's tried those. What makes them work is they have a synthetic menthol in them. Menthol is such a heat and cools the tissue, getting more blood flow to the area, and ultimately what heals you, your vitamins that come into your blood, and they go in and they take care of the area, right? Well, menthol has been used forever for in icy hot type rubs, but also in peppermint teas. This is a good opportunity for me to talk about the oil. That when you look at the picture of the deep blue there, you've got the picture of the tube, and then you've got 2 other tubes right next to it. The one the one that's kind of sitting precariously on top of the other, that one is just a straight oil. So is the one underneath it. And that straight oil, 1 drop of that is equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. That's how much menthol would be in 1 drop of it. Okay, so if you know peppermint tea is going to help, and things like other rubs are going to help, think how much more effective it is when you use an actual plant-based one that's been essentially concentrated like this. Okay. So I say, you really have to experience things for yourself. If it were me, I tried a lot of different types of icy hot type things, and for the most part, they don't really help me. To be honest, they're not very effective at all. And so I had my skepticism when I tried this, and I was amazed at how quickly it helped. But I didn't just use the deep blue. I actually used it in combination with my vitamins that we already talked about, but also this DDR Prime. So DDR Prime is the one that I told you in the beginning. We're going to talk about one that helps with cellular regeneration. The main oils in it that do that are frankincense and sandalwood. Well, what I personally, I'm not 100% positive how it works, but I believe that it has to do with parasympathetic, because the main thing that would help a cell regenerate would be to get it in a parasympathetic state. When it's in a sympathetic state, that's when it becomes cancerous. So when we're just dealing with the health of a cell, there must be some sort of action of frankincense that helps the cell essentially relax and start to repair itself. In a petri dish, okay, we found that DDR prime can actually kill cancer. Now that's in a petri dish, not a human being, okay, but nevertheless, it's an effective tool in helping to turn a cell back into a healthy cell, okay. So I use these 2 as a combination whenever I get a serious injury. Currently, I've got a arch, basically fasciitis of my arch is really inflamed and sore. It just kicked in yesterday. It's almost 100% healed today. I've only rubbed Deep Blue and DDR Prime on it once. I used because I was going to a specific spot, I used the oil on the far right as opposed to the pill, which is the DDR Prime there next to it. I also use the DDR Prime as well regularly. So that's my repair formula, okay? That in combination with the multivitamins. So let's talk about recovery drinks here. We're at about 6:40, so I'm trying to monitor the time and make sure I stay on track here. So with recovery drinks, your traditional recovery drink would be like a Gatorade or a Powerade or something like that, right? And the original design of those is actually genius. They actually measured sweat and said, besides the toxins that come out in sweat, what are the things that are lost during exercise? Can we just replace those? And the answer was that you just lost water and a whole bunch of minerals, a bunch of salts. Obviously, you use up vitamins as well, so those aren't lost in the sweat, but those are lost. Then over the time they added the original Gatorade tasted terrible. Nobody liked it, so they said please add sugar. So they added sugar, which of course dehydrates you, which was kind of not the point of the sports drink in the first place, right? You're trying to rehydrate. So another solution then would be to make sure you're getting minerals, vitamins, and water put back into your system, right? Should take care of it. Well, this Terra Greens that I've got listed here, this actually serves that role. Vegetables are going to be your most, if you're looking at real, natural, real foods, and you say, where do I get the most minerals per calorie? What's the most condensed version of minerals? It's going to be vegetables. And obviously every vegetable has different kinds. So you need a bunch of them. And then fruits, the question there is going to be, where do I get the most vitamins per mineral? And the answer is going to be fruits. So you're looking for a blend here. And this Terra Greens has a green blend. So you're looking at a bunch of green leafies, okay, which are in a class of their own, really, with vegetables. They're extremely beneficial. Your grass blends, these are, okay, grains, they sprout into grass, and they change their composition. So, for example, if you have a gluten allergy, if you can take whatever that would be as a grass, and you'd be fine, because there's no gluten in it after it's sprouted. It actually changes composition pretty significantly. For example, wheat has a high vitamin C concentration, much higher after it's sprouted than before. And so you actually get these. What they've done here is they combined a whole bunch of different grasses and put them in here. You got a fruit blend, of course, looking for vitamins there, and a CPTG essential oil blend. So certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils. Again, that's the paravitamin help that we've been talking about, getting those extra oils in there that are condensed from plants and essentially give you those extra boosts. Specifically for this, we're talking about lemon, ginger, things that help with digestion. Okay. And the only thing you're missing from a good recovery drink then is still the salt, because salt doesn't really occur in natural foods. So what I do personally, I take some Terra Greens with some water, and that's all. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about training for an obstacle course race then a little bit. So calisthenics and body weight training versus weightlifting for OCR. So my opinion, bodyweight training every time over weightlifting if your goal is obstacle course racing. Okay, here's why. The proprioception awareness is the number one reason. Basically, proprioception is your awareness in space, how well acquainted you are with where your body is in space. That's why things like parkour can be so beneficial. They really help you understand where your body is in space. When you do bodyweight training, there's a significant more balance involved than in a traditional weightlifting, especially if you're doing weightlifting with machines. So you lose a lot of that proprioceptive benefit, as well as you lose a lot of the functional training that happens. That's obviously not universally true. There are weightlifting things that do require balance. But overall, you just see a much, much bigger ability to understand your own personal human body with calisthenics than you do with weightlifting. And you can get just as strong of a weight. So you might think, well, I only weigh, maybe you weigh a buck 20, and you're like, I can lift a lot more than that. Well, your muscles are your muscles. They can only push and pull as much as they can push and pull. In other words, with concentration, you can push and pull the same amount, as whether you were lifting it as a weight or whether you're just thinking about the muscle and flexing it really hard. It's the same muscle doing the same contraction. And more focused training like that, when you really think about the muscle while you're doing it, is much more beneficial to your nervous system. So, in fact, one of the best ways that they talked about doing, for example, a bicep curl is to focus in on the biceps while you do the curl. Well, you can eliminate the weight completely and get the same workload. All right, so the other aspect of calisthenics over weightlifting is going to be agility versus fat muscle. So if you're doing obstacle course racing, the majority of the work and the hardest part of the obstacle course race is the running. So if you have fat muscles that you're carrying around, that's not going to be awesome. So the traditional man concept of I want to be big, that's not a benefit to anybody. Because when you're training for big, you're not training for strength nor power. You're training for big. But you can get big and power in smaller muscles. And you tend to do that more with calisthenics. And so it increases your agility. Basically makes you healthier, as opposed to getting what I call fat muscles, which are those big muscles that don't really have that function. You can see much smaller guys with the same strength as a guy with a bigger muscle, and it's just because of the way that they train. If you're going to do obstacle course racing, you have to do burpees. And you got to get at them. You have to do jumping. There's a need to climb a wall, right? You can't even reach the top of the wall. That's going to be a problem. Although, granted, they do help you. They usually give you little like step ladders and stuff. But ideally, you want to be able to do the race, right? That's the whole point. It's important to supplement, arching your back and doing things of that nature, like Superman calisthenics, yoga. These are important to add into any regimen because running actually is going to pull you forward a little bit, give you a little bit of a bad curve. So you want to pull that back up and make sure you're standing nice and tall. Your core and your abs, of course, they play an aspect in that. So as you're designing all of these things we're talking about right here, these are all your rest days. In my opinion, these are the easy days compared to your intense running and your intense time days. These are your day off. I'm just screwing around doing fun stuff today. This is when I do my parkour. So you see I've got written here, parkour, actual obstacle course race training versus Spartan coaching recommendations. I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to tell you what they both are. So my opinion, you want the agility to go over the obstacles. You want to be able to do it no problem. I go through obstacles faster than anybody that I've ever raced with. I've never seen anybody beat me through an obstacle. And it's because I have the efficiency going over the obstacle from the parkour. Spartan would tell you not to ever do it. And the main reason that they tell you to avoid obstacles until race day is because they see a lot of injuries, which is a valid point. They see injuries from people who don't train their full frame. They're doing a lot of weightlifting. They're doing a lot of other things, and they're really strong in some areas and really weak in others. Very, very common to have weak forearms, very, very common to have weak wrists, and the shoulder compensates for that when you're doing something like a monkey bar swing. And so that shoulder gets injured on race day. So their concern is, well, if you're training on a monkey bar right up until race day, and then on race day we might just be the straw that breaks the camel back, and then you get hurt out there in the field. They don't want to see that. My personal feeling is, well, let's just get the whole thing stronger. Why not work on all those things? And no better way to do it than to practice going over obstacles. So you build slowly, and then when race day comes, you're prepared. As opposed to all of a sudden this race day, you feel in the pressure, you want to be able to do something quickly, and you're just not capable because you don't have the strength. So they have a valid point. They're worried about people getting injuries. See my slide on repair, and we'll hopefully take care of a lot of those injuries. But that said, it's always good to start slow with things, especially your parkour training. All right, so how am I doing on time? So I want to hit a couple things really quick, and I don't have a lot of time. So energy and adrenal fatigue, Mono 2 Max and Slim and Sassy. They're both what are called adaptogens. So adaptogen is an herbal term, and it basically means that we're combining a whole bunch of herbs together to fully support one side of that chemical equation. So instead of trying to guess which oil you need, we just put all of them in there that support that system, and that'll help. Mono 2 Max specifically works with increasing your energy level. What it does is it actually helps you increase the number of mitochondria you have in your cells. Your mitochondria are the energy producers of your cell. Well, they work with your vitamins to do so anyways. And so that ends up playing a part there. So I actually take that one. Slim and Sassy helps with adrenal fatigue type things. So it actually helps the metabolism is what you're told, and that's why you think, oh, I'm going to get skinny. Well, Slim and Sassy will work if you're exercising, yes, because it's supporting your metabolism to make you, to give you everything you need. So if your metabolism wants to speed up, it has what it needs to speed up. If you're not exercising, though, and you're just taking a Slim and Sassy, you will see some minor results maybe, but they're not going to be long-term because you're not sending the signal to your body that you're trying to be skinny, right? Think about, from a wellness perspective, our lifestyles are what tells our brain what we want to be. So if we exercise and we eat, certain ways, then we want to be that way. So Slim and Sassy acts as an adaptogen supporting the metabolism, which is what makes it unique among things that people would use for weight loss, because instead of it giving you like a buzz with caffeine or ephedra or something that gets you all, ramped up, you're not going to get that tingly feeling with it because there's no buzz there. There's no energy in it. There's nothing that makes you excited. It's actually just supporting your metabolism, which is why I think it's ideal and important for somebody who, working really hard anybody doing an extreme sport needs to know about these things because they're going to get at a point where they have adrenal fatigue, where their adrenals are just so tired and stressed out from all the extreme working out, okay? So that's why this one's in here. And yes, I do use both. So wrapping up. Really being an elite athlete, you got to have good sleep, good diet, calculated exercise, and by that I mean, including that stress. You have to always be improving, and you need those supplemental helps, right? You're always looking for that edge, and why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you want to recover faster? Why wouldn't you want to give your body the extra boost that it needs? So that's all part of that, just being able to handle things at a tougher level. And it doesn't even have to be for an elite athlete, okay? It's really just for anybody trying to improve, right? So what I want to do now, you're probably all tired of my voice. I have a little bit of a monotone voice. I personally enjoy the question and answer part of it more, so I'm hoping that we've got a couple people who might have some questions or something that they had about something maybe along the way. So let me see if I can. Yeah, so you're not actually muted. You just take yourself off mute and feel free to ask a question if anybody has one.
Hey, Ryan, it's Stephanie.
Hey.
I just had a question kind of about, I know like people talk about rest days on there, and or you put nothing on one day, and I'd never really seen that before. Is it bad to like do yoga every day? Or something?
No, it's not. So good question. So there's a really cool book about fasting, for example, and it talks about a whole bunch of different kinds of fasts. For example, not letting yourself use your eyes for a whole day, just giving your eyes a whole break. Fasting odd things. Giving your body a completely nothing day where it's not trying to recover from anything. It's just a nice way to recover quicker and faster. I personally think it helps me recover quicker every week. But if what you're doing is mild enough and playful enough, my opinion is that if it's playful and parasympathetic, again remembering that it's calm, then I think that I wouldn't even call it work. I would just call it you enjoying yourself on that day. And so I would think that it wouldn't be harmful. It would be restful for you.
Okay.
So you don't have to do anything.
That's good. I just didn't know if it was, and I'm sure there's a benefit, but thought I would just throw that out there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Any other questions anybody had? I think actually live, I know a lot of people are planning to listen to this later. Live, we've only got so many people actually on the call, so.
Yeah.
So we might not have
I am
questions.
going to keep the page open again if people want to post questions as they are able to watch the recording.
Perfect.
And yeah.
All right, then let's go ahead and let you go ahead and close this out and remind everybody about the New Year, and we'll go from. I'll go ahead and end the recording after that.
Okay. Great. So I just will finish up with thanking Ryan for teaching this class for us. He's a great resource of information, and I know this is something he feels passionately about, so that's kind of, again, why I asked him to teach. I'm going to post on the page how you can get this stuff. It is doTERRA essential oils and all of my information, and feel free to contact me in whatever way is convenient for you. And I hope you all enjoy your night, and thank you for listening in.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Yep.